Let's present. All right, welcome to Go Paperless. Kiss that broken down copier goodbye. Thank you for choosing my room to sit in while you digest breakfast. All right, so my name is Aaron Smith. My website is aaronbsmith.com. If you go there, there's only one page. It links you to everything else I do on the internet. So you would see a link to my Twitter feed, my Tumblr account, my podcast, which is not really updated that much, but the videos that I'm recording now will hopefully be there. If you go to the link to my Tumblr on that website, you will have a link to all of my presentations for today, not just this one. So now you'll have all the information, and you can not come to my session anymore because you just got it all, and you can go somewhere that's a lot more interesting. I'll miss you. But, oh well. Okay, so, by the way, after this, is there anyone here who uses Twitter? Wonderful. There is a hashtag. There's actually more than one hashtag. The hashtag for this conference, which I should have put up there as well, I realize, is hashtag PUWT13. And if you go there, you'll see people who are tweeting about this conference and what they're seeing in various sessions and who they're meeting and where they are and stuff like that. Some of those faces that you see up there might even look familiar. One of them, I hope, looks familiar. Yes, Leonore Ward at the top. She's very important. The guy at the bottom you've probably never seen before. Don't worry about him. But also there's a hashtag that's used year-round, PG Tech, which is used right now by mostly tech teachers. But that's a great place to go if you have questions about technology, or if you find something that's really cool that you want to share with other people that involves technology. Use the hashtag PG Tech. You'll be connecting with other teachers in the county, which I think is incredibly awesome. Are we all PG County teachers, by the way? Okay, because I do know the conference is open to anyone, but for some reason, a conference sponsored by PG County tends to mostly have PG County people in it. Weird. Oh well. All right, so also a QR code reader. If you have a smartphone, you can get a QR code reader. They make them for pretty much any phone OS there is. I like QR Droid for Android. It's free. There are free ones for iOS as well. But they're using these in the various sessions at the end. You can use them to do really quick evaluations, which I think is kind of nice. And that QR code up there, actually, if you scanned that, it would take you to aaronbsmith.com. Shameless self-promotion on more than one slide. That's what I'm all about. Okay, so let's get back to this. What we're actually here for, going paperless. Well, almost paperless. I'm so sorry. We do not live in a post-paper world. There are still times where we're going to need paper. County guidelines, I can't have a digital permission slip for a field trip. I need paper for that. If I'm doing something with, say, Edmodo with my students, which is a really cool website, which I'll probably get into later, I usually send home a permission slip for the parents to sign so that I have permission to use Edmodo with those students. I've been told that Edmodo is COPA compliant. I prefer the CYA philosophy, and you can substitute what words you want for CYA. So you're not going to be able to get rid of paper entirely, and there will always be that one student, sometimes more than one, sometimes even more than that, depends on the socioeconomic status of your students, which is very varied in this county, who doesn't have access to anything electronic outside of their home, and perhaps isn't always able to get to, say, a library or somewhere else that has free internet capabilities. But this will help lower, at the very least, the amount of paper that you use. So these problems we're probably all familiar with. Paper is the white gold of education. If you leave a ream of paper in your mailbox, in the office, it's not going to be there when you come in the next day. Someone's going to see it, and we don't know who, but suddenly someone's got a whole lot of copies. And the chance that the copier is going to break down is directly proportional to how important what you have is. Is that test going to have to be done today? Oh, I'm so sorry. The copier had black smoke pouring out of it for 3 weeks now. You didn't know. Copiers are not meant for schools. So let me revise that. The copiers we have in schools are not meant for schools. I have seen copiers designed for schools. I've seen one of them. It's the length of this room, and it had a dedicated staff just working on the copier. When you wanted copies, you went to them, you handed it to them, you bowed and scraped and said, please. sometimes offered to buy them lunch. And then they would make the copies for you. Those copiers don't break down. They're designed for that kind of workload. The copiers we use in school are cheaper than that. You don't need a staff to maintain them. Okay, that's not true because they're always breaking down. But we don't have a staff to maintain them. And they're designed for offices where maybe someone's going to make a dozen copies for a business meeting. Not 30 to 50 teachers making 30 copies a day for the entire 180-day school year. That will wear them down, unfortunately. And of course, paper takes up space. Paper gets lost. No, not lost. I know exactly where that is. I put it in a safe place. In fact, so safe I don't know where that safe place is. But it's still there. Oh, whatever. And of course, it gets damaged and stuff. And let us not forget the most important problem. Students hate worksheets. I have never handed out a worksheet and had students go, "Oh my gosh, this is so awesome! Long division!" Even, now my background is visual arts. My original degree was in art ed. And I've handed out art worksheets. And even the art worksheets, no student looked at them and go, "Oh my gosh, color theory! What's red plus green? Oh, I know." No, they don't do that. Like, a worksheet? I'd much rather they show me they know what red plus green equals by painting something. So would they. All right, so the solutions. Now, this first one, when I first made this, I just put 1-to-1 ratio. That can be a drawback because there is a digital divide. There are students who are haves and there are students who are have-nots. And there are schools that are haves and schools that are have-nots. So it's really hard to get to a 1-to-1, one piece of technology for every student in the building situation. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon unless we have legitimate education reform that doesn't just mean let's make another standardized test. Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm so sorry. I meant to say that out loud. All right, so, but you have students with smartphones. How many of you have a student that you've caught this year with a smartphone that they shouldn't have had out? I've caught several. Okay, well, school policy, that's supposed to be turned off and put away. We're not supposed to see it. But there's an exception to that came out a few years ago. We are allowed to let them use them if it's for an academic purpose. And we approve it. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm going to have students walking down the hallway away from my room saying, "Oh yeah, Mr. Smith said this phone is okay." No, in my room, it's okay. That's got to be put away before they walk out my door. And if their next teacher says it's okay, then they can pull it out again. But my stuff is online. They can use their phone to pull it up. Why do I need to give them a printout if it's somewhere they can't lose it? They're less likely to lose their smartphone. I say less likely. I know we all have examples. They are less likely to lose their smartphone than they are to lose that piece of paper I handed them. They care more about it. Everything that can be digital, make it digital. And I'm going to be covering these sort of like this. Now, first of all, when you give a quiz or a test, it is great to have it not be on paper. Testmoz.com is my favorite site for assessment, and you can use others. Polleverywhere.com is pretty good for warm-ups, in my opinion. I'm sure that if you've been to other tech conferences, you've seen a keynote speaker or somebody else talk about polleverywhere.com. You can text responses in, or you can go to a website and put in a code and put responses in that way too. So it works both ways. Edmodo.com, is there anyone here besides me who uses Edmodo.com? Oh, Edmodo.com is awesome. It does allow you to make quizzes as well. Matter of fact, testmoz.com only does questions that can be multiple choice type, so true, false, multiple choice, stuff like that. Edmodo.com will allow you to put in BCRs. Now, the downside of that is it's not going to automatically grade the BCRs. It can't. So it doesn't give the students their grade right away if you include a BCR question or a short response question. You're going to have to go through and grade those manually. But anything that doesn't have those, it'll grade it automatically and give those responses to the students. Testmoz is one of the things I was planning on showing you because of how easy this is. And this is something where if you have like a mobile lab in your building, you could request a mobile lab for one day to give your test. I have teachers in my building who do this. Okay, so let's make a test. Give it a name. Powering up with Technology 13. Choose a password. Powering up with Technology 13. Don't ever do that, by the way. Don't ever have your password be the name of the test. That's really bad, but this is just a demo and it doesn't matter. So, okay, continue. And there was a warning there that I sort of went past. You have to make sure you bookmark this site or write it down because this number here is unique. This number here means this is how many people have created tests on TestMoz. It's kind of popular, which I think is kind of cool. I started using it back when it only had 4 numbers. Put my hipster glasses on. But they don't do password recovery. They don't do, oh, this is your username, so here's all the tests you've done. You do have to remember that. It's very low key that way. It's one of the reasons why it's free to use. So you've got settings here that we can adjust. I love these. At the end of the quiz, display the score. Students will know the score right away. They don't have to say, what did I get? Mr. Smith, have you graded our quizzes yet? They know immediately. And you know immediately, too, what they got. I can choose to display the correct answer at the end of it if I only want them to take it once. I let my students take a quiz more than once until they get an A, but that's part of gamification, which is my session 2, which I recommend you come to. Yes, I am shameless plugging myself again. I'm just going to keep doing that. You've been warned. But if they're only taking it once, you want them to see the answers at the end of the quiz, or maybe you're testing for existing knowledge or prior knowledge. You might have that turned on. I love randomizing the question order. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Now you know I use Windows 8. Oops. I don't like Windows 8, by the way, but never mind about that. I love the randomization feature. You get fewer students going, what did you get for number 5? You still might, but they're not going to put the right answer. The question order is randomized, and you can even randomize the answers inside each question. You can turn that off if it's, say, a question where one of the responses is all of the above. You don't want that to be the answer A. All the above, nothing. You can turn off randomization on a per question basis, but the question order and the answers can be randomized. And of course, you can put notes for the students to not read in here. The passcode is kind of nice because you can make sure that only students in a particular class are going to take that. You can give them a link in advance, and it won't matter. But when they come to your room, you write the passcode on the board, and if they don't put that passcode in, they can't get in to take the quiz. So there's a bit of security in there. And the questions, I'm just going to make one question. Add a new question. What's the coolest conference ever? Okay, so we got 2 possible answers here. This top one is checked because that's the correct answer, obviously. But I could pick some other lame conference if I wanted to be the answer. I am going to shuffle the answers. I'm going to click on that box there. I could do a true false. I could do multiple response. I could do fill in the blank. It does do fill in the blank. I don't like fill in the blank for TestMoz because you have to put in every possible answer that you want to be correct, and it's cap sensitive. So if a student misspells a word, they get it wrong. If it's capitalized but it should be lowercase, they get it wrong. So I tend to avoid the fill in the blank ones myself, but the rest of it I think is really cool. And I could save and add a new question, but this is just a demo, so let's just hit save. And now, and this is the part that you have to definitely remember to do. Once you're all done and you've edited everything the way you want it to be, you have to click that big red button that says publish. If you don't, people can take the quiz, but it won't record any answers. I may have forgotten to press the button for a class. They were kind of mad at me. Okay, so publish. And now anyone could go to testmoz.com/213996, which I would usually embed that link on a website or something for them to go to. I wouldn't just write that on the board, because then we avoid typos. And you could take that quiz and see what you get on it. And anyone who takes it, I would see it over here under reports, where it does this really nice setup where it shows me not just your name that you put in plus your score, but it tells me which answers you got right, which ones you got wrong. Of everyone who handed in, how long did it take on average for students to take the quiz? Of everyone who handed it in, what percentage of each answer was right or wrong? a lot of data. For those of us who have to record a lot more data now with new assessment strategies, this is really, really cool, in my opinion. Certainly. For test mods, no. If you want to do a lot of embedding, I would recommend, you can't upload files for using Edmodo, which I remember you raised your hand saying that you use Edmodo in your classroom. So you can upload files to include for assessment in Edmodo, and also if you use Discovery Education Streaming, they have a quiz builder there that you can embed stuff from Discovery Education into it. Discovery Education does not pay me to say that, but they should.
For a math test, multiple choice, you would have to have all the...
You would have to have all the answers. Now, you could do fill in the blank, which would probably work better with math because they're not going to forget to capitalize a number. So you could say, here's this problem, what's the answer? And then underneath they could put the answer. Now, you could also turn off the question randomization thing, have the questions on the board, and then just put the answers in the test mods when they're looking up on the board. You would still not be using any paper. And it would allow you to do something more complex, like, because I know there's a lot of math symbols and ways to arrange the numbers that it's hard to do in a straight line when you're typing stuff in. So that would be a way around that. And that's I hadn't thought of that before, so I'm really proud of myself that I thought of that on the fly. Okay, let's go back. We already talked about those, and we are getting closer to the keynote, which I'm really excited to go to. So let's go back. Online handouts. If you give it to them as paper, you can take that same thing. How many of us design our handouts on the computer? Print out a few of them for the people who really need a printout, but for everything else, just take that file and make it digital and put it online. You can take those digital files and upload them to Edmodo, which is a county initiative. Every time I go to a tech meeting, the people who are running those tech meetings tell me, Edmodo, 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 join our Edmodo group, Edmodo, Edmodo, and by the way, in case you haven't heard about it yet, Edmodo. I'm not complaining about that because Edmodo is awesome. Hi. So, this is where I put files. Google Drive, Google Sites, and Edmodo, which is all free, all endorsed by the county. Matter of fact, this is my county email, which you notice I blurred out everything to hide the guilty. And they've changed the setup. When you're logged into your PG County Mail now, there's a little button over here. Instead of having a black bar across the top that said like Sites, Drive, etc., they moved it over to one button. You click on that, and you have all these different options, including Drive and Sites, and I've opened them up to save time. So if you click on Drive, you'll see something like this, only there's a lot more stuff here because I've been using Drive for years. You can upload existing files. You made that Word document handout, you can upload it and it counts. You have a PDF file, you can upload it and it counts. A PowerPoint presentation, upload it, it works. Or you can create things from scratch, which is actually how I did this presentation, where I clicked Create and I got to pick what I wanted to create. You can even use Google Forms for quizzes. The only thing I don't like about using Google Forms for quizzes is it doesn't grade them instantly for the students to see their results. And I really want them to get instant gratification with that. But I have done quizzes using Google Forms also. I've even made self-grading quizzes. I just couldn't get them to see the answers right away without having them see everyone's answers. And I'm not going to do that. But how I made this presentation, I clicked on Presentation. I picked a template, hit OK, and there we go. It's essentially PowerPoint, but not as PowerPointy and horrible. I'm maybe biased against PowerPoint. It has its uses. It's great for animation. All right, so for sites, I actually made a sample site here, but you can click Create. If you don't right-click like I'm doing now, I'm not even looking at my mouse. Put in a name. Hit Create. Congratulations, you've made a site. You can pick a template, you can change a template. Here's a sample I made earlier, pow. And I can even do stuff like, let's edit this. I can add additional pages and stuff, but I could go up to Insert. Look at all the stuff I can throw in here. I can even insert YouTube videos. I love finding tutorials online on YouTube. I insert them into my lessons online. And the student, if I'm not there, or they're doing it at home, they still have someone, and I'll admit it's very often me because I record my own tutorials on YouTube, go through and explain step by step by step, this is what you need to do. It doesn't eliminate my job as a teacher, but it does make my job as a teacher better because those students are being self-directed learners, and I don't have to worry about them so much, and I can spend a lot more time with the students who are not self-directed learners and helping them when they get confused. That gets more into gamification. Again, if you want more on that, see my session 2. It's a little bit of both, because embed is sort of like a link, but in this case, let's show you. Let's go to Drive. Let's embed a document. Let's embed okay, so by Edmodo permission slip, that'd be a great thing to embed. Hit save. And it doesn't show it here yet because this is the editing window. If I hit save again, now it's live, and anyone who goes to the site will be able to see the Edmodo permission slip. First day of class, when my students come in the door, I hand them a printed out Edmodo permission slip, and I say, this is your one copy. If you lose this copy, write down my website, because that's where you're going to get your other copy. Oh, you don't have a working printer at home? That's okay. I'll accept a handwritten copy so long as it's written in pen. Here's a pen. I am not wasting any more toner on you. Exactly. And matter of fact, if I could do it guilt-free, I wouldn't even give them the one. I just say, your permission slip to use Edmodo is online. You better bring it to me next week. Any handout, anything that you can upload to Google Drive, you can embed in a Google site. They work together flawlessly. Now, you do have to make sure, because Google Drive inherently keeps things private. So you do need to make sure you make the file public on purpose. So like this presentation I just created is private by default. If I click on this box here, I have a button up here, share. I can share it with specific email addresses down here if I want to share it with only a few people. Or I can just change the access for everyone. Change anyone with a link, public on the web. I usually go with anyone with a link for that, because a lot of the stuff is important for my students, but I don't want people to just be searching for it out there on the internet sometimes. So I'll often pick this option. Matter of fact, I picked this option for all the presentations I have online today. So you actually can look at the folder that has everything. That's how I shared the folder. That shared everything inside the folder at the same time. And there's an additional option down here. Anyone can view, can comment, can edit. Can edit is a lot of fun. I've done lessons where I wanted them to take notes. They were all on the computer. I gave them a link. It was set to can edit. They all collaborated together. And when the lesson was over, I turned that back off. They had a permanent record. No one was going in afterwards and deleting everything because they wanted to be a meanie. It worked wonderfully. Now, is that going to work with every class? No. Some classes have jokers that will just go in and mess things up while you're working on it. But by setting up to anyone with a link and can edit, they don't even need to have an account to do it. Now, if you happen to teach in a high school where all of your students already have PGCPS accounts, those are Google accounts, and you could make it so that it's just people in Prince Joseph County Public Schools with the link, and then share it with them. Or you could go with the next one up if you really wanted to. And then their edits would not be anonymous. You'd actually see a little icon for each person show up at the top saying that they were viewing, and you would see a cursor showing who they are, so there'd be no anonymous edits. And if someone's going through and deleting everything, you'd have like 3 students raising their hands saying, Billy's erasing all my stuff! Billy, step away from the computer. I don't have any students named Billy, by the way, in case I don't want that to come back and haunt me. Okay, so that's that. And Edmodo, I love Edmodo. Everyone in PGCPS should have an Edmodo account, even if all you do with it is upload files to it for your students to see later. Okay, so here's Edmodo, and here's all my various classes in Edmodo. Because I'm recording this with the intent to put it online, I'm not actually going to go into these classes and show confidential information, because that'd be really mean. But if I click on any of these, I've got chat windows. First thing my students say when they see this is, it's like Facebook. Well, yes, it is, except Facebook is not moderated at all, and this is heavily moderated. Matter of fact, for my elementary classes, I've turned it off where they can't post things for the group to see. Which, unfortunately, they're at that maturity level where some would be able to do it, but most of them cannot. So that's turned off. My middle school classes, I have that turned on unless there's a problem, and I can turn that off for individual students if one student's acting up. My favorite story for this is I had one student where it was a middle school class. I teach a K through 8 building, by the way. That's why I'm saying elementary and middle. I had one student where after anyone posted an artwork that they'd made for a various project for the whole group to see, he was making very mean, insulting comments. Well, Edmodo does email notifications as well, and you can turn them off, but I never do intentionally. And I called him over while everyone was working, and I said, "Hey, Billy, check this out." And I showed him the email notification of the rude comment he just sent. He was like, "Oh." I hit forward. I typed in his mom's email address because there's a space in the permission slip for email address of the parent. And he said, "Oh. Are we going to have this conversation again, Billy?" "No, Mr. Smith." He was fine after that because I had to tell him there was accountability. And some of them understand right away that no one on the internet knows you're joking. And even if you're joking, sometimes it still hurts. But some people need a little bit more reinforcement. Now, to post things in Edmodo, I love this. I've got all these different options. If I'm just posting a note, I can still upload a file. I can give a link. Our morning announcements, there's some problems with our wiring in our building. Not everyone can see the morning announcements live, so I record them. I put them up on a YouTube channel I made just for that purpose. I put a link to the YouTube channel in there when we post them, and other teachers can go on their Edmodo accounts, because we're in the Feloy family group all together, down here. And they can click on that button, and suddenly it's playing YouTube in Edmodo. It's embedded. I love that. It embeds a bunch of things. Also, you can upload a bunch of files for later use into your library. That's this thing up here. And you can schedule posts. All my warm-ups for the week are already in for next week. When that class comes in at 11:30, their warm-up is live. It wasn't live when they were checking Edmodo on their phone when they were waiting for school to start at 8:45, so they couldn't hand it in early, but it went live when they walked through the door. That's fantastic. There's no, "Oh, I forgot to make it live." No, it just did it automatically. I would love to go into Edmodo even more, although this session is supposed to be ending soon. I've been talking a lot, amazing. Okay. Polls are great. They're not quizzes, but polls are great for a warm-up question where you can lead it to a class discussion where as soon as you post to the poll, as soon as you pick your answer, it shows you a scale of what percentage of responses were for each answer. So those are a lot of fun. And I really wish I had more time to go through this. So let's go back to, okay, I've talked about those. Class management software, I was talking about Edmodo already. If you really want to, you can use other software. Schoology or Schoology, one of those things. It's a competitor to Edmodo. I know some teachers who like that more. The bottom line is whichever program has critical mass in your building is the one you should use. Because one student account can be hooked up to multiple classes. So then they only need to remember one username and login. If everyone's using Schoology, use Schoology. If everyone's using Edmodo, which right now, because of the push for Edmodo, is much more likely, use Edmodo. If you don't have an Edmodo account, you do need a school code to create an Edmodo account. They had to do that because there were some students creating teacher accounts, including one of mine, which I found out about afterwards because there were students in my Edmodo class asking him about assignments that he had given them. He's one of those students where he was, at the time, he was a bored student acing my class. I wish I knew what his assignments were. He never gave me the invite, so I didn't get to see him. But yeah, that can't happen anymore because you need a school code. If you don't know your school's school code, ask the technology liaison in your building. Push comes to shove, you can email help desk. But the technology liaison in your building should have had those school codes made available to him or her. Moodle is an open source platform that I've used with my students briefly, which the county has used in the past as well. And at one point, I was even using a modded version of WordPress, which I had to have my own server to host. And I had my students handing in work on WordPress. So anything works so long as you have ways for students to submit work to you that isn't on paper. And some of my students will write stuff on paper. I have a 10-minute movie project that my majors have to do. And they have to give me the script first. Some of them will type the whole thing in Word and send it to me that way in Edmodo. Some of them write it up by hand. They take out their phone, they take pictures of each page and send the pictures in Edmodo. I don't lose the paper. There's no, Mr. Smith, I know I handed it to you. Let's check Edmodo. It's not there. It's wonderful. There's no, Mr. Smith, you didn't hand it back to me. And this will eliminate a lot of paper from your class. I'm sorry to have saved the last slide, well, the last main slide, but project-based learning is awesome no matter what subject area you're in. Worksheets aren't fun for most people. Instead of having them just write stuff out, have them show it. If a perfect example actually is this video, which I don't have time to play for you right now, but you can go in and watch it later if you want. A student in Texas, and you know how we do Maryland history in PG County, a student in Texas needed to learn about the Alamo. For his project, he went into Minecraft. It's a video game, but it's a sandbox video game. You can build anything you want. He built a life-size, and we know how it can be life-size because in Minecraft, every block in Minecraft is 1 meter cubed. So we had size comparisons available. He built a 2-scale, life-size model of the Alamo in Minecraft, and he and his dad recorded them going around and touring it. His teacher didn't even need an Edmodo account to view it because they watched the video. That's a cool project. Instead of having a student write a report about a historical figure or a figure in modern day, have them assume the role of that character and record themselves acting it out. Have them use their smartphone if they want. Have them use a flip camera, which are really good cameras that they unfortunately don't make anymore, but a lot of schools have them. Or even the point-and-shoot camera I've got in my pocket records video. Have them record it, upload that to YouTube. Or, well, maybe not YouTube. I upload my stuff to YouTube. I don't tell my students to do that. But upload that to Edmodo, rather. Or give it to you on a flash drive. It's not paper, and it's going to be a lot more engaging than, here's my 3-page report on Benjamin Franklin. Double-spaced, 12-point font, except for the periods. If you make the periods like 72-point font, most teachers don't notice, and it increases the page length slightly.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to look for it because I don't have page requirements on a movie, which is kind of nice. But it doesn't have to be that. It could be a PowerPoint presentation. They could take pictures of the work, which is another presentation I'm doing later on today. Check out my sessions on the wall outside and see what else I'm teaching, and I'll be in this room all day. I am continuously shamelessly plugging myself. And various games and whatnot. But in any case, look, these are all different ways. Hopefully I've given you a few ideas for ways that you can replace a lesson where you primarily be using lots of paper with a lesson that uses next to no paper, so that you don't have to stand in line for that copier anymore. Or at least not nearly as much. All right, so that was my session. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have a smartphone with a QR code reader installed, and if you don't have one installed, there's a bunch of them free out there in the various marketplaces for phones. Also, we have a lovely assistant over here with paper copies if you want to go against everything I've taught you today. I won't really be mad, but you can use a paper copy to evaluate my session. Me personally, I much prefer if you use the digital version. Also, there's a Google link down there that you could type in to any device that's internet capable and evaluate my session. Tell me how horrible I was and how you're never coming back again because of me. I'll only cry a little. Okay, and I am now going to stop the recording.